Hello and welcome to the Meet Mediocrity Podcast, Season 4, Episode 4. Now, as I've told you, Meet Mediocrity Season 4 is all about things I wish I knew when I was starting my career. Today's episode is about selling. And look, I believe we're always selling. I believe all of us are selling ourselves all the time. So you can't tell me that when you are going out to dinner and you dress a certain way, you're not trying to sell yourself. Or the way you speak with someone, your tone of voice, the persona you put out. Are you going to be a tough guy? Or are you going to be a laid-back person? When you put yourself on social media, you're often selling. Now, you might not be selling "my life is great," although a lot of people do that on social media. But you might be selling, "I like to work out. Check me out, I'm working out." It's all selling. It's selling a persona and perception of yourself. So selling in your career is very similar. Now, you could be selling a service. You could be selling yourself. It shouldn't be seen as taboo. It shouldn't be seen as a used car salesman. If you want to sell, I think selling is a human thing. The human seller and the human buyer. And to me, if you want to be an effective salesperson, you need to understand the buyer as a human being. And so, how do you understand the buyer as a human being? I think what you need to do is gather evidence. And different selling situations give you different opportunities to gather evidence. So sometimes you'll gather evidence in perhaps an unfair way, based upon the person's speech or the way they dress or the car they're driving. These are superficial, they can be stereotypical, and they may not lead to the right answer. But it's evidence gathering. You're gathering evidence to create a hypothesis about the person you're selling to. Now, more importantly than those superficial things, are really starting to understand the human being. Before I meet with anyone, I try to find out as much as I can about that person. So I'm not judging them based upon the car they drive, but I am judging them based upon things I'm learning about them. So for example, I will Google them. I will look on their LinkedIn profile to learn things like, where did they go to school? How long ago did they go to school? What did they study? Where have they worked? How many jobs have they had? I look at their social media if I can find them and say, do they have children? Do they have pets? Where do they like to go on vacation? What do they like to do? You gather a profile of the person you're going to be meeting and ultimately selling yourself to. The act of gathering this evidence and creating a hypothesis allows you to kind of imagine yourself in their shoes when you are speaking with them and ultimately selling to them. So I think this evidence gathering is really important. And I'm going to tell you a story about kind of my journey and a couple of learnings I've had in my career journey. So I can divide my career into a lot of different subsections. But let's say, broadly speaking, client service, customer service, sales, and then business leading. I think those are kind of my three paths. And I reached a point in my career, this is now probably 7-8 years ago, I knew that the thing I liked the most about my job was selling. And I liked it because, to me, I like the human-to-human connection. I naturally get excited to try to figure out where the other person's coming from. Not just in sales, but in life. You know, I often make a joke that if I was introduced to a mass murderer, my first reaction wouldn't be shame on you. My first reaction would be, I wonder why you became that. I'm just curious about the person on the other side of this discussion or the other side of the story. And to me, selling is that game on steroids. So when I decided that I wanted to move my career from customer service to focus predominantly on selling, I did an investment in myself. I found someone who was a forensic psychologist. And the whole objective was to find someone who would help me help other people. So help me be better at helping other people become better salespeople. Because that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people become better salespeople because I had so much fun selling. And so I hired this woman, forensic psychologist, and she said, I asked her about her experience. And she's a fascinating woman. She told me that she spent a lot of time doing jury selection. The other thing she told me she did, which was fascinating, was crime scene analysis. Trying to figure out, not based on fingerprints so much, because fingerprints or DNA tell a whole story, but if the person left footprints, or they knocked over everything off a desk, that tells you about someone. If they were very thorough and they cleaned every handle that they touched, that tells you about someone. And so you looking for evidence to figure out what that person was all about, crime scene analysis. And so I studied with this woman for over a year, and she taught me a lot of things about how to gather evidence and how to use that evidence to create a hypothesis about a person, and how to test that hypothesis and modify the hypothesis as you went until you actually really felt like you knew the other person. And look, this isn't a magic trick. It's really the magic trick of super uber observation. And if you're really good at it, you can, and you don't have to be really good at it, but if you're really, really good at it, you can really understand where the person that you're selling to or that you're trying to influence is coming from. To me, selling is not a taboo thing. Selling is not a used car salesperson thing. Selling is about understanding the other human being across the table. Next time you know that you want to influence someone to buy something, you want to influence someone to hire you or to promote you, do your best to understand that other person before you start your pitch, and you will connect better with them. The other thing you can do, so this is something that I haven't touched on yet, but it's the power of code development. So another thing when it comes to selling is don't necessarily go into a sales pitch with only one thing you can offer them. So one of the things I like to tell people when they sell is sell what the person across the table that you've now come to understand, sell what they're ready to buy. So they need a big project, but they're only ready to do a small project. Do the small project. If you do it really well, you're going to get the big project eventually anyway. If you know they need to do the 3 parts of a project and they're only willing to buy one, figure out a way to give them one and make it valuable. And let them decide when they want to do projects 2 and 3, because that way you're building a relationship and you're actually co-developing the approach and the solution with the buyer. This is incredibly important in competitive situations, because I can tell you the contractor who came into me who said, how do you see this happening? Let me see if I can work within that. What's important to you, Mitch? Let me see if I could work with that. That person is much more likely to get hired than the person who's like, you don't know my business, it's done this way, this is the only way to do it. And we see this in sales all the time. We come in and we have what we call a one-trick pony. We come in and we say, this is what we've got to sell, this is it. I think that level of flexibility, that level of asking the person that you're selling to, testing your approach with them, seeing their reaction, modifying your approach, all while doing your best to understand the human being on the other side of the table, will make you more likely to be successful in your sale. So let me wrap up a few key points here. So point 1, selling is not taboo. It's not the fuller brush person. It's not the used car salesman. It's life. Life is about selling yourself, selling your services, selling your products. Life is about selling. Second point, reminder, understand the person at the other end of the table so you can walk in their shoes, so you can feel what it's like to be them as you approach them with a sale or a sales opportunity. And the third thing is co-develop that solution. Don't be that one-trick pony. Go in and be flexible in what you sell so that you're selling what the buyer wants to buy. If you do a great job, you're going to get more work from that person. They're going to call you back. So that's the Meet Mediocrity Podcast Season 4, Episode 4 on selling. And until next time, continue to keep smiling, stay healthy, and stay well. Take care, everyone.